Austin McNabb, CEO, and Frank Pagano, Managing Partner with VizyPay. Round of applause.
Hello. Good. All right. Well, three things. First, I want to say thank you for allowing us to come speak to you guys and have an opportunity. Number two, Igor, you have the best damn coat in the house. That's really dope. I love it. And number three, I think that it's important to realize, coming to things like this for me is important. I never want to be the smartest guy in the room. And when I saw the individuals that came up before me, I wasn't the smartest guy on the stage, I'll tell you that. But I do think they did a couple of things that they taught me just by listening to them. To be more vulnerable, to be more open-minded, and to think bigger, and don't just deal with the ways it's always been. So I think they deserve another round of applause for this. So our number one focus at our organization is culture. That comes before our clients, and that comes before our sales partners, that comes before anything else is our company culture. So before we get into that in detail, what we're going to do is we're going to tell you a little story about us growing up a little bit. So Frank, go ahead and shoot one.
Thank you. So I'm Frank Pagano. You might notice me a lot of times in the shadows behind the big boisterous Austin McNabb, but co-founder with him. And I want to tell you a little story about growing up. So I grew up here in Des Moines, born and raised in the Des Moines area. Grew up on the east side. Third grade, moved to Urbandale with my family. I'm number 4 out of 6, so I would say, pain in the ass in the family. That I was a chameleon. I could kind of blend in with the 7-year-old brother and his friends, and my younger sister, 6 years younger, and I could kind of get along with them, and was that chameleon that could kind of play both sides. Had a special needs brother. He took a ton of bandwidth from my mom and dad, so a lot of times, having to be independent, figure things out, just was kind of par for the course. I would say, was not a great student, kind of bored with school, honestly. And again, with having 6 kids, 1 special needs, my parents kind of just let me get by doing, what I did. So I'll remember there was a tryout for Odyssey of the Mind. And it was kind of like you guys, if you're familiar with it, it was kind of like a science type of little fair that they did. And they gave us a bunch of paper, like construction paper and paper towel rolls and a ping pong ball, and said, you need to get this ping pong ball from this table to this table, and you need to do it without using your hands. And so everybody was kind of, powwowing around, and within 3 minutes, I called the teacher over, I'm like, yeah, I got it. And she's like, Frank, you haven't done anything, everything's just sitting here. So I grabbed a piece of paper, picked up the ping pong ball, put it on the table, like, I didn't touch it with my hands, I used the paper. Like, well, that's not the spirit of this thing. So that was kind of my mentality as a kid growing up, was I could solve problems. I didn't necessarily do it the traditional way, but I did it in a way that was right for me. And so growing up, I was part of, my family had, I would say it was full of entrepreneurs. So I saw it as a small kid, and went to work with my dad with a family business, and I think it was probably somewhere around 12 years old. He was starting his own business, and I went on a sales call with him, and absolutely blew my mind. We drove to Kearney, Nebraska. He sold home improvement products. We went in there, and he sold, I think it was like a siding and window job or something like that. And so I sat there at the kitchen table and watched the whole thing unfold, and was just kind of mesmerized by it. And wow, we get in the car, I said, Dad, how did we do? He's like, well, we made, and I can't remember what the number was. It was a couple of thousands of dollars, whatever it was, and it was a short amount of time. We drove more than the amount of time that we spent with those people. And it just blew my mind that we could do that. So I was exposed, I think, as a child and as a young adult, to things that maybe others weren't, Went through to Dowling High School, again, not a great student. Didn't have plans to go to college. I was going to join the Marines. And my dad was a Marine. He said, absolutely not. You need to go to California where your uncle is, go to work. He'll teach you how to make money, and he'll help you. So I went to a junior college there, moved to California, and that's kind of where the story stops.
Well, my story is kind of crazy in my mind because, as you're growing up, everything's kind of crazy. My mom came from Vietnam during the war. She came to this country to send money back to her parents, right? And 23andMe, by the way, confirms I'm 52% Vietnamese, by the way. So, and my dad is British, Irish, German, everything else. I'm kind of a mutt on that side. But regardless, my mom came to this country in her early 20s. She did it for one reason at that point. I came out at 37 years old, so she actually had me really late in her life. And my mom and dad divorced really young, probably 4 or 5 years old. My dad was also a Marine for 21 years. But my mom remarried. She remarried to my stepfather, which was a total douchebag. And the reason why I say that is because he wasn't very physically abusive, but he was very emotionally abusive when I was growing up. There's one word I rarely say out of office, and one word I rarely say in front of him or my family, and it's the word stupid. I was called stupid so many times growing up, while he sat in his happy ass doing absolutely nothing the whole time they were together. My mom worked 7 days a week to provide the family. I never saw her, but he was on the couch smoking cigarettes. Someone asked me literally last night when I was at an advisory meeting, Austin, what inspired you? Who inspired you growing up? And I said, it was my stepfather. He inspired me to do everything opposite to him, to be a better father, better husband, and just a better human being, right? So at the age of 12, by the way, I went to 14 different schools growing up. Adapting to people is pretty fucking easy. That part's easy for me to do, okay? But at 12 years old, I was going door to door selling egg rolls, and I went to the richest communities so I could learn from individuals that why do you have big houses and tell me what do you need to do to sell more egg rolls. And I remember one guy I went to his house and now it's probably 11, 12, and I went to the richest neighborhoods on purpose. I just felt they had more. The nice cars. I lived in a little blue house around a lot of big houses, and I always got shit for it. I'm the guy that always got made fun of. You got slanted eyes, your mom's Asian, your house smells like egg rolls. I was just that kid, unfortunately, I didn't do it. Hey, I don't understand it, but what I did understand is my mom needed money. I just didn't know what the value of money was back then growing up. So I went to these communities. I remember one gentleman, he was nice. He actually answered the door with boxers, and I was kind of weirded out at 12, but whatever. And I said, as I was selling him egg rolls, he bought. And I said, I got one question. You look like you've done well. What would you recommend me to do to sell more egg rolls? I'm not selling a lot. He's like, son, just build urgency with people. Just say you have like 50 egg rolls left. Just say you have 12 left. Say you're trying to break an egg roll record. Do something to get that other side to say, damn it, I better buy from that kid. So I said, okay, cool. So I went to the next several houses, and every person bought from me the next houses, and I would ride my back home. I would give my mom all the orders, because back then there was nothing digital, right? It was all written down. I got this. I gave it to my mom on a Saturday morning. By Saturday evening, I rode my bike around all those neighborhoods to deliver those egg rolls, right? And then I was selling candy door to door at 13, 14 when I convinced my mom to leave my stepdad when he kicked us out in the middle of winter in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, where I lived in a basement for 6 months. My fear of spiders come from that basement, and I said, we need to get the hell out. And I give you my word, Mom. I give you my word. I will take care of you when we go back home. And that's where my brother was in Southern California. So when I went back home, the first thing I did, in my one of 4 or 5 schools I think I went to in California, after going to several schools I went elsewhere, is I went and sold candy door to door. And again, I didn't know the value of what money was, I just knew she needed it. And that was really important to me. So when I went through that experience, that allowed me to kind of be who I am. It allowed me to become more authentic, not have a victim mentality, be open-minded to different backgrounds and diversity, and wherever you come from is where you come from. Be who you are. Yeah, I said the word fuck. That's who I am, right? But you don't like it, you don't like it. That doesn't mean I'm better than you or different than you. And I think that's the mindset we bring into our organization. And we are maybe not meant for everybody, but we're meant for the right people. And I think that's important to realize. You can't make everyone happy. And that's kind of how I grew up with that. So now we're going to talk more about culture and how we do a couple things different.
Well, and so the reason that we wanted to kind of talk about this is it directly ties into how we hire. So I would say we've got a staff of just under 100 right now. We've interviewed probably 99, maybe 98 of the people. So they go through, the process of talking to a hiring manager, and they come to us, and we never look at a resume. We turn the resume upside down, don't care. As a matter of fact, our first question isn't even about what you did or what you do. Because quite honestly, that doesn't matter anyway. You could be the most qualified person in the world, but if you don't fit our culture, it's not going to work out anyway. You could be the best asset that we could potentially have, but if we're not going to vibe, it's all lost. And so we talk about the very first question we ask, and it's actually Austin's brainchild. I don't want to hear about anything from the point of you being an adult. I want to hear about the time from when you can remember, whether it's 3, 4 years old, all the way to the time that you're 18. And the reason is, as you can see between the two of us, we have very different lives. You know, my life, I was exposed to entrepreneurship and, you know, saw the best and probably was a little bit more privileged than his life. In his life, he had a different set of lenses. We ended up being neighbors. And we share a lot of same commonalities, but at the same time, we have a lot of differences. But at the outset of an interview, we want to know who you are, because we believe that who you are starts when you were a kid. It doesn't start at 18 or after college. It starts when you're a child. What creates your mindset and the way that you think, and and kind of what shapes your opinions and your decisions. And we think that that's more important than a resume. And obviously, we laugh about it. We want our heart doctors to be the best, and we want them to be, when they're being hired, Unity Point, look at their resumes. For the most part, what we try to look for is a culture fit first. And so, I think as a result of that, we brought in people that, probably have been overlooked, whether it's because of resume, whether it's because of education level, or even maybe past times where they've messed up, where they've maybe need a second chance and kind of have that chip on their shoulder, which is what we talk about all the time.
Yeah, the reason why I came up with that question back in the day is because, is when people walk in, I see these young cats walk in our office, and they bring these shiny resumes in, and they spend like $10 on this like one-page thick resume, and then they watch me throw it in the trash when they walk in. I just won't look at them. And the reason why is I'm a big believer in not judging a book by its cover. Because I just don't believe it. Now, again, go back to heart surgeon, I might want to know where you went to college and where you practiced. But for most of the things we all do in here, it's teachable. So what I look for in those interview processes, there's many of times that people will get emotional in our interview process. Because when I talk to them about the relationship with their mom, with their dad, with their brother, their sister, were they a rich kid, were they a poor kid, were they bullied, were they not bullied? And I dive deep, literally for 30 minutes, talking about their whole growing up, their childhood, and not one time do I talk about their adulthood. I believe the character that they're going to have going into our environment is going to be a direct reflection of what they have experienced and seen as a child, because that impacts us 10 times more than what I'm going to see today at 37. You know what I mean? So those individuals that walk in our door that have this conversation, I look for attitude, number one. I can't teach a good attitude, okay? Number two is potential work ethic. I can usually get a good vibe of their work ethic based on their experiences they witnessed growing up. And if they don't have great work ethic, can I get the best work ethic out of them based on what they witnessed growing up as well, right? Maybe it's a hardworking parent. Maybe it's a family that, the mom and dad were never at home because they work so much. 60% of our staff are minorities. 27% of our staff are women. And another thing I think is part of diversity within our organization, maybe some of yours, is 95% of our staff do not come from the payments fintech world. I hire outside of our world. You can't disrupt an industry by hiring everyone who thinks the same. And also you can disrupt an industry not just by building out cool technology. You can also disrupt the industry by representing it in a way that people want to follow. And I think we're doing both, right? So a lot of our staff have a lot of, he just said it today when he walked in office, it was different diversity. It's a little bit of everything throughout our whole organization. And we did that purposely, but when I look for attitude, potential work ethic, the last thing I look for, which really, really matters to me more than anything ever, does that person have grit? Does that person have a chip on their shoulder? Do they have something to prove to themselves, to their family? Do they have someone in their family that they feel like they need to be proud? Maybe it's their mom, maybe it's their dad, maybe it's just their family, or maybe it's to prove they can do things themselves. Whatever it may be, whatever the definition of success is, that's what I'm trying to find in that interview. And then I'll ask you the boring questions. Cool, what did you do before this? Awesome. I just don't care about it. I'll take 6 to 9 months teaching you the business, but I can't teach you in a lifetime what you experience between the ages of 0 and 18, no matter what your age is. And I think that's one of our biggest things as culture before anything else.
And I think, when it comes to DEI, quite honestly, I think we kind of lucked into it. I think based on our hiring practices and giving everybody a shot, right? If you have, a great ability to want to go out and work and prove something, we want you. That was just kind of our mindset. And, it kind of turned out that a lot of the people that we were hiring were minorities. They may have been first generation here. And, they saw their parents go through a crazy amount of effort and, an expense to get them here. And they had something to prove. And so I think initially we might have just kind of lucked into hey, we have an open door, we'll bring you in as long as you're willing to work. And we started hiring people. We started kind of noticing hey, nobody looks the same. We have a really diverse group, and it's kind of weird. But then when we would sit down, and especially as a young company, where it was Austin, myself, and maybe a handful of other people making decisions and trying to plan things out, everybody had a little bit different perspective. Wow, and so we started kind of, DEI to me, 10 years ago, I didn't even know what the term was, And so as we kind of started building this company up, it was wait, this is actually working. This isn't a theory. This actually works. Taking people's, unique perspective and giving them a voice and letting them be themselves and be free and be comfortable and, be able to talk to us, it actually started working. I think, that's one of the reasons for our success. It's not because we have the most revolutionary products or that we have the most, talented sales force in the world. It's because the people that we have, that we've brought in and given opportunity to, have a chip on their shoulder. They've been given opportunities that maybe they wouldn't otherwise be able to find. And you know what? They're willing to run through walls. And when you have a group that's that bought in, it's hard not to be successful. It's hard not to have, great success when your customers feel like, hey, these guys care. When your sales partners feel like these guys will go, they'll run through walls for me to get what I need done. So I think, again, I think we kind of in a way lucked into it initially, but then as we saw, that it was working, we really doubled down and started giving it gas and saying, hey, this is actually a thing that we need to start focusing on because it's paying dividends back to us.
So to end it, I would do this. I would challenge every single one of you that has any ability to have a voice, which if you don't have a voice in your company, you should quit. But I challenge you to do this, is if you're going to interview someone, stop asking the question about strengths and weaknesses. Stop asking the question about what is your biggest achievement? Who gives a shit? Tell me about how you grew up. Tell me about your family. Tell me about how you think and how you live. Tell me about things that when you sit, I've sat in interviews before, and even think about Best Buy. I sat in Best Buy before, and you sit there, they're just so proper in asking you questions that you already know they're going to ask you. They teach you these things in high school and college sometimes. This is what they're going to ask you in an interview. Get away from those typical ways of interview practices. Get to know the individuals, because you know what? They might not be a good fit, and that's okay. Or they may be an amazing fit. But you won't know that if you're just asking them questions that they studied for at home. They're going to ask me my strengths and weaknesses are. I'm ready to go, I'm ready to rock and roll. They're going to ask me what my biggest achievement was in my last job. They're going to ask me about how I overcame an obstacle in my last job. Shit, are you kidding me? I haven't had any interview process in my life. But they'll never, I've sat in interviews and they're like stunned. Did you just ask me not to talk about my adulthood? Yeah, I did. Did you just ask me why my relationship with my mom was so bad based on what I just told you? Yeah, I want to know why. And they'll get emotional, and they'll dig deep. All their guard goes down. I've watched time and time again, every one of their walls that were up, prepared for the interview, I see bricks just dropping in my head. You can see them all dropping. And then finally, you get to the nitty gritty. Oh, Shannon McCann is Shannon McCann. Charlie is Charlie. Frank is Frank. And you get to really know them. And then you make the decision that you should hire. Be able to take time to teach. Don't be so focused on what we've all been taught throughout all our careers was the typical questions that you ask in an interview process. Why? What's the point? Get to know them because that's who you want to go in. We have one rule at our company when they walk in our doors. If you're not going to be yourself, don't come in. Because then it kills creativity. It kills innovation. We allow people to take ownership of their path within our organization. If you want to wear a damn hat, you wear a hat. You want to cuss. You don't want to cuss, don't cuss. You want to be yourself and have fun, have a voice, and tell your story to others, go ahead. You don't want to do it, don't have to. But one thing you cannot do is is you cannot come into our office and you can't fake it. You gotta be your authentic self. That's all I require. There's 2 people that sit in our office right now that work with an organization within Iowa, a big organization. They literally sat from here to you for a year. You know what they told me when they started here? They didn't know who each other were. How does that even happen? For me, it's mind-blowing. How did you not know you sat next to each other for a year this far away and didn't even know, not only did you sit next to each other, but then you didn't even know you lived 2 doors down from each other in Ankeny, Iowa. That's mind-blowing to me. And now they're one of the best friends in our office. And those are the kind of things that we focus on. And always remember, people aren't on your journey of your company and your organization. You have to remember you're on theirs. The habits you help them create, no matter if you're holding them accountable or you're pushing them to limits they've never seen before at your organization, that is the direct impact of how they go home and respond to their families and respond to everyone else. So if you're holding people accountable coming in on time and you bust their chops on it and they're not okay with it, trust me, it's the little things that matter. So when they can make little Johnny's soccer game, when they can make their mom's doctor's appointment, when they can make their wife's OBGYN appointment, whatever it may be, you're teaching them the habits because every one of you spend, even if it's 8 hours a day, you spend more time at your organization than you do with your own families. So that organization better feel damn obligated to make sure they build great habits for you so you can take that home to your families. So I would challenge you to do that during the interview process and maybe tweak the mindset a little bit. You may love it, you may hate it, but at the end of the day, I do truly feel it's the right way. So thanks, guys.